Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining us. I am Joe Torsella. I've had the honor of serving as Pennsylvania State Treasurer for a little over a year now. And of the 406 days I've been in office, I think this is by far the happiest. Because we're here today to begin what is an exciting new chapter in making higher education a possibility for every Pennsylvanian. But because victory, and this is indeed a victory, has 1,000 parents, I want to first thank some folks for joining us, some of whom we will hear from. And it is, the good news is a long list. Senator John Gordner, Senator Vincent Hughes, Senator John Blake, Senator Art Haywood, Representative Duane Milne, Representative Mike Pfeiffer, Chairman of the FIA Board of Directors, Representative Brett Miller, Representative Leanne Kruger-Branicki, Representative Bernie O'Neill, Chair of the House Finance Committee, and staff from the offices of Senators Fontana, Leader Reed, Leader Dermody, Senator Corman, and Senator Scarnati, and then finally a crew headed by Jim Preston, the President and CEO of FIA. We're glad to have you all with us and glad for your work in making today's announcement possible. So I've often said that most of the good things in my own life started with education, and that I was incredibly lucky to be the product of a generous time that made every opportunity available to a kid like me, and a generous place where I grew up, Berwick, Pennsylvania, in Columbia County, that was full of people who were there to give me a hand and sometimes a push at every step along the way. And since then, as we all know, and unfortunately that story that I experienced has changed. That palpable sense of community that I knew growing up has become harder and harder to find. And the higher education that propelled my family's American dream, like so many of yours, has become staggeringly expensive, putting up unfair barriers everywhere. In just the last dozen years, the average price tag of a college education has skyrocketed by more than 80% and has crippled Pennsylvania graduates with the distinction of having the highest debt load in the nation. And even while the costs of getting education after high school have exploded, the consequences of not having one have worsened dramatically, because what used to be a surefire ticket to the American dream is now just the price of entry in the global economy. Since the end of the Great Recession, there have been 18 million jobs added to the U.S. economy, and of those, a full 17 million have required some form of post-secondary education, whether that's a trade or vocational certificate, a 2-year college degree, or a 4-year college degree. Now, every child born in Pennsylvania, and there are 140,000 of them every year, deserves a fighting chance to get the education they need to succeed in this new economy. Whatever they look like, no matter how much their parents make, and whether they live in a small city, a farm, or any one of our suburbs, or any community around the state. Whether they are going to the main campus at State College, or whether they're going to a vocational program around the corner. And the program we're launching today, Keystone Scholars, is an important step to giving that next generation that fighting chance. Research shows that if a child has a higher education savings account at birth, even when the balance in that account is very modest, that child is 3 times more likely to pursue training or education after high school and 4 times as likely to graduate. And the kids who go on to earn that degree will earn, on average, up to $1 million more over the course of their lifetimes. That's why states around the country have been experimenting with creating universal children's college savings accounts seeded with a small opening deposit to encourage every family to start saving as soon as possible, to improve financial literacy in every community, to even up the playing field and help make sure that no one is priced out of a chance at a higher education. And that is why I am thrilled to announce that today Pennsylvania will join that list with the launch of the Keystone Scholars Demonstration Project. Thanks to the generosity of our partners at the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency and the Neubauer Family Foundation, and with the support of Governor Wolf and the Pennsylvania Department of Health, we have raised more than $2 million so that every baby born in 2018 and 2019 in 6 counties around the Commonwealth, Delaware, Elk, Indiana, Luzerne, Mifflin, and Westmoreland counties, every baby born in those counties will be eligible for a $100 scholarship grant to a 529 account that will put them on the path to saving. Whatever direction their talents take those kids, Keystone Scholars accounts will follow. With this demonstration project, we'll bring these grants to 30,000 newborns, and we'll develop the necessary expertise to bring this project to scale, because this idea is too good to be limited to just 6 counties. Every child in Pennsylvania deserves that bright future, which is why we are so proud to also announce the introduction of bipartisan legislation, working with partners in the Senate and the House, that will bring Keystone Scholars to every county. Working together with them, we can make this $100 Head Start a reality for every child in Pennsylvania without costing the general fund a dime. When parents look at their kids, they don't see the price tag of tomorrow's higher education. They see future carpenters and teachers or police officers or engineers. They see everything their child could do and everything they could be if they're given the chance. And that's exactly how we should see all of Pennsylvania's kids too. We can rise to this challenge and work to financially empower all of our citizens to save, starting the day their child is born. We can work together to build that culture of savings through childhood, through all the birthdays and the dance recitals and the sports meets and the science fairs, until they're grown up, and those savings will be there to help them realize a prosperous future. And we can also, maybe most importantly, we can build a culture of expectations, of telling every generation of new Pennsylvanians that comes along that we believe in them and see a future that extends as far as they want to go. Now, this is a simple idea behind this program, and it passes what I like to think of as the Berwick test. It's not red or blue, it is just plain common sense. It builds new ladders of opportunity for our time, and it doesn't play on our divides, but it bridges them. It reminds us that we are, in fact, here in Pennsylvania, one community, one true commonwealth, as we call ourselves. So that's why it is only fitting, and on a personal note, I could not be happier, that the senator who represents Berwick today will be leading the charge for this program in the General Assembly. The Majority Whip, Senator John Gordner. Please welcome him.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here, and I think that's where I'm going to start, so it's a good connection. January 17th, 2017 was the swearing-in date for Joseph Torsello from Berwick, Pennsylvania. And I was there at Camp Curtin Academy here in Harrisburg to attend his swearing-in ceremony. Went because he's a Berwick boy, and I know the family, and knew his mom was going to be there, and was proud to see him become the treasurer of our great state after a very distinguished career in Philadelphia with the Constitution Center and also representing our country. At that event, and he held that very purposeful, and he didn't just go and show up and have the swearing-in ceremony and left, but he took a tour and talked to a lot of young students there at Camp Curtin. And during his speech, he was very energetic about what opportunities there are for our young folks and what opportunities there can be for them around this Commonwealth. And just so you know, Joe, that I paid attention to your speech, in his speech, he mentioned this idea and said that there was another state or two that had this idea out there, and that during his term of treasurer, he wanted to be able to provide this opportunity to Pennsylvania students as well. So I left that swearing-in ceremony, went to my staff and said, let's do a little research on that, and let's say if we can't be involved with this opportunity that Joe Torsello is talking about, which leads us to today. I just want to mention that when my 2 kids, Allison and Cole, were born, immediately my parents and my wife's parents bought them savings bonds. Some of us older people remember savings bonds, I'm sure. But that's what they did. They bought them each a savings bond, and then at subsequent birthdays, they would buy them a savings bond to be used towards, hopefully, their educational experience. That's basically what 529 has been for quite some time now here in Pennsylvania, very successfully, and what this idea of this Keystone Scholars program is as well. That old savings bond is now this, that investment at birth that will lead to great dividends. For many years, I was involved in a program called Economics PA, which was the largest financial literacy program in the state. And they would focus on providing financial literacy to high school students, whether it was car ownership and understanding that there are costs involved with owning a car, or also playing the stock market game to understand about the investments and how many of those students, if not almost all, will have 401k plans that they need to make investments on, and about how compound interest works, and about how amazing it is that $100 at birth, what that becomes at age 18. So this is just an extension of that, and not necessarily to that baby or the 5-year-old or the 10-year-old, but to the family, to make sure that they immediately see what that small investment can be and what it can turn into as the years go by and that baby grows to be a child and then a young man or woman. So I think it's a great opportunity. And the other great thing about this program, because look, 4-year higher education is not for everyone, and I say that oftentimes when I go to the schools. But as you know, with our 529 program, it is for trade schools, it is for technical schools, it is for community colleges, it is for lots of opportunities. Again, heading back to our area, we have the Penn College of Technology, which provides great programs for a lot of folks that are heading into the trades. We have Luzerne County Community College. So it's not necessarily to say, hey, your child has to go to a 4-year program. But as the treasurer mentioned, 17 million of the 18 million jobs are those that have had some sort of training beyond high school. And the dividends as to future earnings are incredible. So this is that seed, that spark, in order to provide, hopefully, great opportunities for our young people across the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Gordner, and I did think it looked like you were paying attention at that inauguration, so thank you for your support and your partnership. Now it's my honor to welcome the other lead co-sponsor in the Senate on this effort, who has, and I have the privilege of having him as my senator, Senator Vincent Hughes, who also serves on the board of directors at FIA and was part of the unanimous passage of the resolution that has made the demonstration project possible. Please welcome Senator Vincent Hughes.
Thank you. Thank you, Treasurer. Thank you to my colleagues. I don't know who this young lady is, but
Just wait.
just wait. Okay. All right. You know, I didn't know we were electing colleagues that young these days. All right. This is real simple stuff. You know, when you find the sweet spot on public policy, right, and you're able to come together, bipartisan, administrative, making common sense public policy, kind of makes coming to work a lot easier, wouldn't you say?
Yes, sir.
Kind of makes coming to work a lot easier. And let me just go a couple bullet points, and we'll keep this thing moving forward. According to a recent study by Complete College America, by the year 2020, 60% of jobs will require a career certificate or college degree. As of 2011, only 43% of adults in Pennsylvania earned post-secondary certification. In 2008, students and families paid approximately 36% of the cost of public college. By 2014, they paid approximately 50%. Pennsylvanians graduate on average with the highest amount of student debt, higher than anywhere else in the nation, with more than $35,000 on their backs. The fact is, too many of our young men and women, 70%, are graduating college with staggering debt. Many college students are working simply to pay off student debt, which means that their earnings are not being churned back into our economy. And what most folks don't know or don't want to know is that a number of our students are in college, are living, barely existing hand to mouth. There are many students, believe it or not, attending college who are homeless. The idea of creating an environment where we can start investing on the front side at birth to create college opportunities for our young people here in Pennsylvania makes absolute sense. Whether it's for trade school or medical school, a baby with a higher education savings account at birth is 3 times more likely to pursue training or education after high school and 4 times more likely to graduate. And let's be clear, the treasurer spoke a little bit about this in his numbers. A child who graduates with a 4-year degree earns about $1 million more lifetime than they would if they had a high school diploma. But don't stop there. If they are to get an advanced degree, a master's degree, it's about another $1 million on top of that. If they get a doctoral degree, it's about another $1 million on top of that. Investing early on the front side at birth makes absolute sense. It is the right thing to do. It is the right expenditure of our dollars. The fact that it comes from America's premier higher education organization, the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency. You like that, Jim Preston? The premier, okay? All right? An organization that I happen to serve on and have served on for quite some time, is an appropriate investment of our dollars in the future of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I'm proud to stand here at this moment. My hope, Senator Gordner, is that by the end of June, when we walk out of here with this program in place, that we've passed the legislation to get this thing done. That's what we got to be about. This makes sense. It is the right time. It is the right policy, and let's make this thing happen for the children of Pennsylvania and for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator, and we will book this conference room for June 30th.
Let's do it. Come on.
Thank you for your longstanding support of this concept. Now I'd like to welcome the representative who's taking the lead on this in the House, Representative Duane Milne, who will be the prime sponsor of the Keystone Scholars legislation there, and who is just back to the Capitol after his service in the reserves. So welcome back, Representative and Captain.
Thank you, Treasurer Torricella, and also to all my colleagues who are up here on the stage. This really is an exciting partnership that we all are engaged in. And when I heard about the program and the initiative, I leapt at the opportunity to be the prime sponsor on the House side and to provide whatever leadership I can to make sure we shepherd this through in the House side as quickly as we can as we move from the pilot 6 counties to eventually all 67 counties. And I do so because I think this is a smart public policy, and I think it's a very astute use of ways we can make financing work here at the state level. What drives me in part, and I was thinking about this with Treasurer Torricella's comments about his youth, that's probably what drives me in my interest in this legislation is, one, thinking about my parents. My parents, like many Pennsylvanians, were the first in either side of their family to go to college. And I know they wouldn't have had the opportunity, as they certainly have shared with my brothers and I, without the government assistance and without student loan programs that were available at the time. So this is the way for the next generation, the next youth that move through Pennsylvania, for them to have the same opportunities that I know have meant so much to my parents and eventually have allowed them to provide the kind of life that they were fortunate to provide for my brothers and I. So I think about my parents with this and trying to make sure that we keep this American dream alive and the Pennsylvania promise alive through the opportunities of education. I think a little bit on a personal level along the way, I was fortunate where I had a kind of 50-50 plan, sort of compromise with my parents about college tuition, where I paid half and they were fortunate in the position to pay half. But that gives me some sobering perspective on thinking about the younger people coming out of high school today and the kind of financial decisions they have to make. Because I have been through, like many of you here, I have been through the student loan repayments for part of my college tuition. Fortunately, mine were relatively minimal in the grand scheme of what I see young people today taking on. The kind of figures that I hear from my neighborhood kids, from my friends' children, and other constituents that I represent, the figures are staggering. Far, far, far more than I had to pay back. And I know even with my minimal repayments, I know how frustrating at times that seemed and how much that made an impact on decisions I had to make about my future and decisions I had to make about repayments and other choices we had to make for our family. I think it in part as a college professor, which is my career path besides being a legislator. I look at the young people in my classroom partly from a perspective of having been there myself as a student, but also now as a professor. And you think about the kind of choices that they are going to have to make. And when you think about the kind of potential debts that they are trying to avoid, it's a pretty draconian choice sometimes. The ones that are really thinking ahead and are trying to be prescient with their finances, they are trying to work a lot. And that's to be commendable for them to do that. But the problem and the constraint can be if they work so many hours, it can impact their education and impact their ability to succeed in the classroom. And I could share many anecdotes of students that I know their academic performance, as they would freely admit, could and would be better if they were not so concerned about trying to avoid sort of the pendulum of debt hanging over their heads. So they're trying to do the right thing, trying to make sure they don't go into excessive debt. But we want the students to be able to focus on their education so they can be the best prepared young person they can coming out of the classroom. On the other hand, including myself probably at the time, I look at other students that at 18, 19, 20 years old that are just borrowing to try to get through college. You have no concept, and that's why I was thinking about this with the economics PA reference, because that was a great initiative. You have no concept at 18, 19, 20 years old what it means to pay back $50,000, $75,000. And the problem becomes not just, of course, the immediate repayment, but it literally makes it an impact sometimes about what kind of job we can even encourage the young people to take, particularly if they want to go into what are good service jobs that may not pay as much, whether it's public service, social work, teaching, and some other professions. It literally can constrain the kind of job young people can take after their college days or their post-secondary work. So we want to make sure that students understand what it means to be able to afford college. It means an impact sometimes about where they can even live once they get out of their college. So we want to try to encourage the young people to be aware from a very early time with their family's help about making sure they are well prepared to get through college in as relatively financial strong shape as they can along the way. And I would just say, bringing it together here where we are today as a public official, this is wonderful public policy. This is wonderful public policy because it shows that Pennsylvania is serious about making sure post-secondary opportunities are in place for Pennsylvanians and trying to encourage that and try to incent that, because we want this state to continue to have well-educated, highly motivated, well-trained employees, citizens, leaders of this Commonwealth. And that does all start with education, obviously from kindergarten on, but obviously with secondary ed being a part of that along the way. So this saying to the rest of the Commonwealth, the citizens who all of us represent at some level, that this state is serious about higher education. We are serious about making sure that our citizens have a way they can access it, have a chance to do well with it, and most importantly, stay here. That's something that has been of concern to me along the way. Is Pennsylvania, unfortunately, at times does face a very serious brain drain with our youth. And there are many reasons for that, but this policy can be part of the pillars of making sure that once a student finishes their time education-wise in Pennsylvania, that they feel they can afford to stay here and turn around and contribute to our economy, contribute to the future of Pennsylvania, which is so important to all of us. So I think in summary, to me, this is win-win-win all the way around, because it's smart public policy, it's a smart use of dollars, it's something that I think is going to be well used and well received by the public, And in the totality, it's going to let education do what it's meant to do, which is to help us have a well-educated, informed, engaged citizenry that's capable of highly functioning and doing well in this increasingly complex 21st century world and economy, and really just society at large that we face in. So Treasurer Torricella, you have my word that I will be working with you closely, strongly, and very much vociferously to make sure we pass this legislation and build on this 6 counties pilot study, which I think is going to be a great foundation to begin to expand the program. So thank you for being part of it with me.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Milne. I had a similar experience recently where I actually found my financial aid package from when I went to school and compared what that was like relative to family income then and what it's become now. It also reminded me that I literally would not have been able to go to college without the benefit, in part, of a grant from FIA, the premier higher education agency in the nation, which is why I'm very glad to welcome our next speaker. Representative Mike Pfeiffer is the chairman of the board of FIA. He's also been a longtime colleague of mine in Treasury's in the tuition account advisory program for our 529 program. Representative Pfeiffer.
Thank you, Treasurer. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I know I just want to recognize, and you said it earlier, but I would like to recognize some of the people here from FIA. Jim Preston, our president, is here. Jim Steele, our chief operating officer, is here, and of course, Senator Hughes is a board member, and I did see Representative O'Neill somewhere in the audience here today. So I just want to say that, FIA's got 16 members from the General Assembly. I appreciate all the work that they do. We work very hard together. Our mission is to provide opportunity for higher education to the students and family of this Commonwealth. But sometimes at age 18, maybe that's just a little bit too late. And we do a great job distributing the appropriation through our general fund that we get every year. We match that, or the families can match that appropriation per student with the federal monies and the Pell Grants. And again, all that money helps. Students can work, students' families try to save. There's many different options available. But no one's ever looked at this idea of starting it at such a young age. So I applaud the Treasurer for such a great initiative, because we all know the compounding of money over 18 years can be very great. And he deserves a lot of credit for this thought process. And I will say, I have 3 children. All three children have 529 accounts. And I will say that saving through these accounts is contagious. You get a statement every quarter. We're starting to see some earnings in those quarters. I mean, that's exciting. We can see the money going in there. You can sit down. I sit down with my daughter, who is a junior in college, and I sit down and I say, here's our statement, here's our goals, this is what we want to do. We're so proud of you, and we are all working together. My grandparents or her grandparents help very much. Our family works very hard. She works very hard. We're proud of her. And there's nothing better than giving a child a goal and saying, you know what, someday you can go to that school of choice. But it's going to take a lot of work in the classroom. It's going to take a lot of work saving money, and you can do it. And that's what we at the FIA board, that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that those students out there have opportunity. We want to say, hey, look, we have such great schools in this Commonwealth. I mean, they're some of the best in the world. We really believe that. We want them to stay here. We want them to go to school here. We want them to live the American dream, and we want them to grow here. So, again, it is my honor to be here. FIA is a proud partner in this initiative. We've discussed it several times, and we just think it's the right thing to do for the families of our community. So, again, for me, thank you for including me today, Treasurer, and just congratulations to you and your 529 TAP team. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Pfeiffer. Now we will answer Senator Hughes' question by welcoming someone who is currently a freshman at Millersville University, but I think quite possibly could be a colleague of yours in just a few years' time. We're really pleased to have Evelyn Days with us to talk about her story. As I said, she's from from Downingtown and is now a freshman at Millersville, where she's majoring in biology with a GPA that is worth bragging about. I'll let her share it if she cares. Evelyn, thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Torsella. As he said, my name is Evelyn Days, and I'm here representing Millersville University and middle-class families. Looking back to when I was younger, there were two things I could sum up about my childhood. The scar on my face from being scared of falling down the steps, which led me to fall down the steps and create this scar, and money, something my family did not have a lot of. I'll never forget the day I was at the store with my dad and I asked him, "Are we poor?" My dad has a huge sense of humor, so he jokingly said yes. The reason I bring up that he joked is that he didn't want me to worry, but I always worry. After this day, I feared my future and definitely did not think I would have a summary about myself saying I'm coming from an incredible university with a 3.57 GPA, since he didn't want to say it. When I was 2, my father and mother split, and my mother was around when it was convenient for her. When we were young, my father's transportation was the bus. Can you imagine trying to bring 8 kids on a bus? Knowing that he could not afford a car at the time, starting a higher education fund for any of his children was not in the budget. College did not seem like an option for me. According to the Huffington Post, the average cost to take care of a child is $245,340. With that number, it costs $1,962,720 to raise 8 children up to 18 years old. At this time, my father was making about $60,000 a year. The program I came to talk to you about today is called Keystone Scholars, a program designed to secure a better future for kids like me that come from a middle, low-income home, wanting a better future for themselves. Parents with a child born in 2018 and following can claim $100 for their child for education purposes and then receive it between ages 18 and 29. Just a month ago, my sister gave birth to my niece. I don't want her to be limited a future because of her parents' circumstances. No child should be limited in education because how much the parents make annually. A child born into a family with parents making 6 figures deserves just as much as a child born into a family living off of minimum wage. Babies with a higher education savings account are 3 times more likely to pursue an education and 4 times more likely to graduate. Today, I am asking you to think about all the jobs that could be filled by kids starting off with $100 and how it can promote a culture of saving. It can be hard to understand a situation you have not been through, but there are too many kids that have thrown away their dreams because of the lack of a piece of paper. This program has the ability to change lives for the better. I would like to thank Treasurer Torsella for wanting to bring this program to Pennsylvania and giving me the opportunity to share my story with all of you today. Thank you.
Thank you. That's why we're here today, so that in Pennsylvania there is no child with that kind of talent who says college or higher education is not for me. We need to make that something that is not said in this Commonwealth. Every Pennsylvanian deserves this chance. We're thrilled that we are working toward the goal of giving it to them. I want to thank, again, everyone who's joined us today to speak or in support of the program. I want to thank our legislative champions, and I especially want to thank once again our philanthropic partners at FIA and at the Neubauer Foundation for their support of the demonstration project. That concludes our program. Happy to take your questions, and I'm sure I speak for my colleagues who would join me in that as well.
That $14 million price tag, that would be for the statewide program?
That would be statewide based on $100 per child with approximately 140,000 births. The demonstration project will reach about 10% of the Commonwealth's population in these 6 counties. It's about 14,000 births per year in those 6 counties.
And you said none of that would come from the general fund?
None of that comes from the general fund. Are there any further questions?
If someone grows up and they decide not to go to a college of any sort, what happens to that money then?
Well, so there's 2 answers to that. First answer is, we talk about college. It's really shorthand for post-secondary education, which is a range of possibilities that a four-year degree is one of them, but that's not the only one by far. Vocational school or certificate programs or a two-year degree included. So if they choose to go in that direction, these funds, as they grow and are compounded, and hopefully as they are added to with family savings or other partners' deposits, will be eligible for those things as well. So these funds could be used to pay for tools in a vocational program or for a certificate program. Now, if they choose not to do anything after high school and pursue none of these options, at the end of the program, those funds would revert back to the program and be there for the next generation of kids to come through.
And Treasurer, I just want to mention, you have to age 29 in order to use these funds. As you know, sometimes folks graduate from high school, decide not to go, and they go out into the workforce, but all of a sudden at age 24 or 25, they realize that, you know what, I would benefit from some sort of program, and that's one of the reasons why they have from age 18 to 29 in order to access this program and use this, because they may not initially, but they may as they get older.
Or another example, sometimes kids go into the military and then go to school, which would also be comprehended by that range. No other questions?
Do we have an estimate for what $100, what you expect $100 to translate to after 18 years?
I can give you an estimate, but that's not going to be the answer. But the estimate is if you compound $100 at 7%, by the time the child is a senior in college, that'd be worth about $440. But the real answer is in two other facts. Number one, whether we can get, we have a wonderful program in 529s. It's used by about 7% of the state. If we can get more people saving, we can start to drive up at higher education attendance levels, and we can start to drive down some of those debt statistics you heard about. If a family, and the real point of this, if we can get families to save even a little, if a family saved $25 a month as a result of the inducement that this program gives them to think about doing that, those funds compounded over the same period would equal about $14,000, which is approaching the one-year cost of being at Penn State. Which is about half of our current, not quite half of our current per student debt figure. So that's also part of this. But the real message of this program actually has, in my view, less to do with numbers and the value of $100 compounded, even though compounding is a wonderful and miraculous thing. It is in changing expectations and in setting expectations. Just like Senator Gordner said, I too had well-meaning aunts and uncles who gave me every birthday a $25 savings bond and said, this is for college. And I thought it was the world's worst gift. But what it did is it told me what they hoped and expected and believed in me, and that there was a network of people there who believed and would support me through that. That's what we're trying to do as a Commonwealth with this. We're trying to tell every kid born in the state that we believe in them. And we're trying to change and raise those kind of expectations. I think that is the real power of this, the $100. And I think that, by the way, that's why this research, which is fairly compelling, shows as early as age 3, there's impacts in mothers' expectations for their kids. That's the 3 and 7 times more likely to go to and graduate college. It's not the power. The money is important, but it is not the power of the amount of the money. It's the statement of faith and expectation and community that we're making when we do this. Anything else? Well, with that, I'm going to again thank you all. I'm going to again thank our partners, and I'm going to invite you all back here. Maybe we should say July 1st just to be safe?
No, June 30th.
June 30th. Thank you so much.
Good jinx.